Or the fill-in star, Chris Kelso, filling in for Kevin Price, is out making the world a better place today. Good morning, everybody. Great time for a great show, and we're going to start off this morning with Marty Okner. He's with SHM Corporate Navigators. Marty, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks so much, Chris, for having me on the show.
Oh, well, it's always our pleasure. You know, for all those listeners who have not heard you before, let us know first and foremost before we bring your guest on who you are and what you do.
Sure, absolutely. So my name's Marty Okner, and I work heavily with middle market companies, a lot of second generation and entrepreneur-run companies throughout the United States. And in addition to being with SHM Corporate Navigators as managing director, I also am chairman of the Association for Corporate Growth, which is actually the largest association of middle market executives. I'm chairman of the New York chapter here. We've got about 1,100 members, and we work with middle market companies on the transactions and growth strategies to help grow middle market companies throughout the U.S.
That is awesome. I know we have a guest with you, but one question I've got before we bring your guest on is,
Sure.
What do you define as a middle market company?
Sure, it's kind of a broad definition. We really look at mid-market enterprises, anything with $400 million or less in sales or of enterprise value. That's sort of a broad definition. I know the middle market has a lot of definitions, and I would say the sweet spot there is probably companies anywhere between 10 to 150 million in sales.
That is awesome. Well, you have a great guest. If you don't mind, introduce him so we can talk with him as well.
Sure. Very pleased to have Tom Girardi, who's Managing Director with HT Capital, with us on the show today. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Marty, and thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. You know, one of the things I'm going to ask you the same thing. Let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. I'm Tom Girardi. I'm Managing Director of HT Capital Advisors. We're a New York City-based investment bank. We've been advising clients in the middle market for about 30 years, and we have a good mix of sell and buy-side client base, and we're active in a variety of industries. My particular background and expertise is consumer products and food and beverage.
Consumer products and food and beverage. You know, one of the things, and I'm going to put this out there for both of you, obviously, what we're going through right now in the economy here in the United States in general, we've seen definitely a resurgence from the 2008 debacle. What have you seen in the middle market side of things? Where are you seeing the growth for the next 5 years? If you don't mind, if you can answer some of those right there. And then more importantly is, especially food and beverage, where do you see some of that going? Because, we're living in the land of consumer-oriented consumption, I guess, especially when it comes to those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. From an M&A transaction standpoint, as you pointed out, we've definitely seen a resurgence from the peak pre-recession levels of 2007. From a transaction volume standpoint, we're close to that 2007 peak. And actually, from a valuation standpoint, we've actually exceeded it a bit. We're now looking at EBITDA, which is earnings before interest and taxes and depreciation and amortization, multiples of 11 to 13 times, which is slightly above the 2007 peak. So it's a great time to be in the market if you have a viable business to sell in those sectors. And we're seeing the same level of activity in multiple industries.
And what's coming up in regards to, beverage, food products that you were talking about right there? I mean, one of the things that we've seen over the past, let's say, 5 to 6 years, we've seen a lot of new products, new companies come out there, a lot of different drink products come and go and be sold for very nice profits. In fact, 50 Cent was a big investor, I think, in vitamin water and ended up doing very well. What are you seeing? What are some of the new things that are coming up in the industry?
From a backdrop standpoint, you're seeing the traditional larger food and beverage companies like Kraft and Heinz, which are currently merging with Warren Buffett's 3G venture. These larger process-oriented food companies are challenged a bit to find avenues of growth. So them and their competitor set are looking for these up-and-coming companies like Annie's, for example, which went to General Mills for a pretty high multiple. things that correlate and resonate with the millennial generation have more of a higher sales revenue growth trajectory and typically have more of a natural and healthy product formulation in the minds of consumers. These are the areas we're seeing of fastest growth, and that's across food and beverage.
You know, something I was reading the other day that was pretty interesting. It was talking about the millennials and how obviously the marketing is going a lot to the millennial area. However, one of the things that's happened in, for example, the fast food industry is they've changed their menu to go after the millennials, but they're not buying that food, right? So we're seeing some issues associated with the fast food chains in which they're going after a certain segment of the market, but they're abandoning their core. It's kept them where they're at right there. What are the millennials looking for? I mean, what is that product set that they're really buying and that you see future growth going for?
Yeah, I'll let Marty weigh in as well. My first basic comment would be that they're looking more to trust the organization. They do due diligence. They utilize social media. They want to know where their products are coming from. That's why, all across the spectrum in food and beverage, whether it's meats, drinks, they want to know the source of the products. They want to know that the companies they're buying from operate with levels of diversity, integrity, and sustainable sourcing.
How about yourself, Marty?
I would absolutely agree with that. We work with a lot of companies that are, consumer facing here in my practice at SHM Corporate Navigators, and basically, the common theme here is that the new millennial consumer is really all about extremes. So they want extreme transparency, both from a supply chain standpoint, from a business practices standpoint. They also embrace extreme luxury products. At the same time, they embrace extreme discount products, and you see that with extremes in terms of ingredients as well. They're looking for extremely healthy or extreme junk food in some cases also. So there's really these middle of the road kind of companies are the ones that are really getting squeezed right now, and it's the millennials. They're very opinionated. They like to take a stand for things, and they like their companies and their brands to take a strong stand as well, even if that means not necessarily being all things to all people.
I would absolutely agree. One of the things, got a really good friend of mine, he will not ever come over and eat anything that I'm cooking unless it's from what he calls a happy cow company. He wants the cows to be happy. So you are right, though. It's to the extreme. I mean, they go to these points to look and to verify who the company is, what their corporate governance is, what they're doing environmentally, what they're doing socially speaking. Very active on Facebook, Twitter, all the different aspects of things right there. And it's pretty interesting. It really is creating a new dynamic in the corporate culture and in how businesses operate and bring products to market.
Exactly. And, I do want to turn to Tom, actually, because, we did reference the high sales multiples that a lot of companies looking to sell are realizing. And Tom, you had mentioned actually viable companies. So I think, in terms of what Chris was saying about branding and the whole socially responsible demand among millennials and the appeal of millennial consumers to a lot of large cap companies, in addition to the branding piece, what else do you look for in terms of being a great candidate for a sale, Tom, in terms of a viable company for you to bring to market?
Yeah, I would say some of the other key attributes would be some type of proprietary intellectual property, whether it would be just the uniqueness of the brand equity proposition itself, whether they have patents, other trademarks, some point of difference from a competitive standpoint that actually is creating a new segment within an existing category.
All this, I could talk about business forever because I absolutely love it, and especially marketing the millennials. Unfortunately, we are coming up against time, and so we're going to have to be taking a break here. But, Tom, how can we reach you if you don't mind?
Absolutely. HD Capital Advisors via our website, www.htcapital.com, or I could be reached at Girardi, TGIRARDI, @htcapital.com.
That is
Thank
Tom.
you so much, Chris.
Likewise, Tom Girardi with HT Capital Advisors. Marty, how about you? How can we reach you, sir?
Sure thing. So my website is shmcnglobal.com. Once again, shmcnglobal.com. And if you go right to our Teams page, I've got a link to my email right there.
That is Marty Okner, also Martin Okner, if you want to pronounce it correctly, with SHM Corporate Navigators. Thank you both for being on The Price of Business this morning.
Thank you, Chris.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
For all those listening, we have to take a break. We have to pay for the show somehow. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.